It usually starts with an argument, and then you wake up to metal posts going into the dirt. A relative has decided to block your shared access road, and suddenly you're cut off from your own property. The situation gets complicated fast because your name isn't actually on the deed. The land is still registered under a deceased grandparent's mother title. To make matters worse, that relative hired a private surveyor. They have a map with lines drawn on it, and they are using it to claim that specific patch of dirt belongs exclusively to them. It makes you feel entirely powerless. But here is the core legal reality of Philippine property law. An estate must be formally settled and legally partitioned before specific permanent boundaries can be claimed by any individual heir. Because the estate is unsettled, that private survey holds absolutely zero legal weight to extinguish your right-of-way. They paid for a drawing, not a legal title. Their immediate threat to close the road is legally hollow. To understand why, we have to look at the concept of succession. By law, specifically Article 774, property rights and obligations transmit to the heirs the exact moment a person dies. You don't have to wait for paperwork to become an owner. But this immediate transmission creates an unstable state of co-ownership among every surviving heir. Looking at this diagram, you can see how this works. Every heir technically owns an equal, fractional share of the entire estate. You own a percentage of the undivided whole, rather than a specific geographical plot. So when one heir attempts to draw hard boundary lines and claim a specific corner of that undivided property, the system rejects it. That administrative leap doesn't work. Your relative might act like the sole landlord, but their actual legal status is merely a co-owner, and a co-owner has no legal right to exclude other co-owners from using the property. Fighting this relative in the dirt over a fence is useless. You have to move the battle away from the physical property and into the reality of municipal administrative processes. Your first objective is to stop the physical construction of that barrier today. You do this by applying local municipal friction. Arguing your rights over the property line will fail. Instead, you need to direct your dispute to the proper intervention authority, the office of the city administrator or the mayor. The inputs are simple. Submit a formal complaint letter to the city and attach a sketch map showing the disputed road and attempted obstruction. Logging this dispute forces a formal municipal review. Local government intervention acts as a massive roadblock, temporarily freezing your relative's ability to alter the property while the complaint is active. You have to recognize the severe limitations of this tactic. It manages the immediate conflict, but it addresses zero of the actual property rights. Here is the trade-off. Filing a complaint buys you time and peace today, but it does not grant you legal ownership of the road tomorrow. Local mediation is strictly a temporary band-aid. It serves only to pause the conflict until you establish formal documentation. Once the fence building is paused, you need to acquire objective government records. You have to overwrite AIR's self-serving private survey with municipal data. You do this by requesting an official ocular inspection and data correction from the city assessor's office. The requirements are straightforward. Bring a valid ID, proof of your heirship to the deceased, and pay the small processing fee of 25 pesos. This forces the local government to formally recognize the shared right-of-way on an updated tax declaration. But beware, tax declarations prove an active claim, not absolute legal ownership. The scale heavily favors a formal title. These assessor documents provide essential ammunition for any local dispute, but they will not win the overall war. Establishing administrative evidence strengthens your immediate defense, but leaving the land under a single mother title guarantees that your children and their children will fight this exact same battle. To secure your property forever, the ultimate non-negotiable objective is completely dismantling and canceling that deceased grandparent's mother title. The legal process to achieve this is executing an extrajudicial settlement of estate. This legally formalizes the partition of land among all surviving heirs. The technical prerequisites are heavy. You must hire a licensed geodetic engineer to conduct a formal survey and create a government-approved subdivision plan. It also requires heavy financial inputs. You must settle pending inheritance taxes with the BIR and pay transfer fees at the Registry of Deeds. Once fees are paid, the mother title shatters into an individual transfer certificate of title, or TCT, in your name. This TCT specifies your boundaries and legally locks in the shared right-of-way against future disputes. The trade-offs here are extreme. It is highly expensive, it takes years to complete, and requires the hostile relative signature. Despite the friction and cost, enduring this administrative gauntlet is the only way to achieve legal certainty and permanently sever ties with a hostile co-owner. To manage this without feeling overwhelmed, we need to separate your immediate panic response from your long-term legal strategy. On this decision tree, if physical closure is imminent, focus your first 48 hours on an administrative block via the city administrator, your only viable shield. Once paused, pivot entirely to the 12-month plan, initiating the extrajudicial settlement. Stopping early leaves your property perpetually vulnerable. Understanding these two distinct timelines strips the aggressive relative of their perceived power. It replaces panic with a predictable roadmap to control the situation. The core fallacy driving this dispute is simple. Measuring unpartitioned land with a private surveyor never grants anyone the power to close a shared road. You must permanently abandon any reliance on informal family boundary agreements or verbal promises. They offer zero legal protection. Log the dispute on paper with municipal authorities today. Establish a formal paper trail that documents your right-of-way before they can pour concrete. Next, start a dedicated savings plan immediately. You need to prepare for the inevitable geodetic engineering fees and government transfer taxes. Executing this strict administrative playbook is demanding, but doing the heavy paperwork now is the only permanent escape from the mother title trap, and the only way to end the family feud for good.